Hey guys, welcome to HB2's History. We're going to travel down to North Carolina in this lecture to look at HB2. You want to know why it's called HB2? Because its short name is the Public Facility Privacy and Securities Act, but it's really called an act to provide for single-sex, multiple occupancy bathrooms and changing facilities in schools and public agencies and to create statewide consistency in the regulation of employment and public accommodations. We're going to stick with HB2. Let's take a look at the law, its effects, and lots of other stuff as we giddy up for the learning. We're going to go get her done right now. All right, there's three parts of this bad boy, and the first part's the part that you probably read about on the internets. This is the bathroom part, and there's a couple things that I want to say about this. Number one, we're only talking about government facilities. The focus of this bill is going to be on public schools, but also it would be City Hall, any government facility. It doesn't apply to Target, it doesn't apply to private businesses. But this first part basically says you have to use the bathroom that corresponds with the gender that's on your birth certificate. And the people that support this bill are saying that this is common sense, that, you know, if you're born a man, you're a man, you should use the men's bathroom. We need to protect children and keep the pedophiles and the creepy people out of their bathroom. Now, people that are against this believe that transgendered individuals were born that way. It's a class of people no different than being born black or Jewish or any other classification, and that the only way for a transgendered individual in North Carolina to use the bathroom of their choice would be to change their birth certificate. And to do that in North Carolina, you would have to have sexual reassignment surgery. You'd have to do the cut. But right now in North Carolina, if you're in a public facility, a government building, you have to use the bathroom according to that law that is corresponding with the gender on your birth certificate. So that's the first part. Second part is a limitation not only on those that consider themselves transgendered individuals, but also gays and lesbians. And basically it's a limitation on the ability of these individuals to sue for sexual discrimination in state court. Supporters of the law say that these groups, gays, lesbians, transgendered people, it's a behavior, they're not born that way, therefore they can't sue in state court because we don't see them as a class of people, so there's no equal protection issues. In fact, there's only 22 states that actually protect gays and lesbians in state law legislation, and only 19 states that do that corresponding with gender discrimination. You could look at the map and you could see regionally it's pretty much the Northeast, the upper Midwest, and the West Coast. But the southern part of the United States, the central part of the United States, and certainly the southeastern part of the United States is pretty solid on not having these types of protections. The third part prohibits municipalities in North Carolina from passing their own types of anti-discrimination legislation to deal with their own city ordinances and such. So if Charlotte wants to pass an ordinance that protects gays and lesbians or transgendered individuals, you ain't gonna be able to do that. There's other parts of this bill in terms of banning what a local ordinance can do. They're not allowed to raise their minimum wage, and then they're also not allowed to do some types of regulation on child labor and other types of regulations dealing with city workers. That's gonna have to be dealt with at a state level. All right, let's take a look at how this bad boy was passed, and boom, the after effect. So before we get started talking about how this bill was passed, I think it's important that we all understand the word gerrymandering. Most states gerrymander their districts. That means that the lines that are drawn that divide the different districts in the state are drawn by the state legislature. And sometimes those lines might be drawn to benefit the political party that they belong to. So therefore you get districts that are very pure. And in North Carolina, for instance, 90% of all of the people that voted for that bill face no opposition in the upcoming election. So there's no heat, there's no need for real moderation because you're not facing the public in a vote. So therefore it makes it easier for some of those GOP legislatures to vote for this bill because it's not controversial in their gerrymandered districts. But nevertheless, this really started on February 22nd, 2016, this year, when the Charlotte City Council, with a vote of 7-4, passed their own local anti-discrimination ordinance, which basically protected gays, lesbian, and transgendered individuals in places of public accommodation. So immediately this kind of caught fever in the conservative Christian community, and the claims that this would lead to bathrooms where men could go into women's bathrooms became a hot topic issue. So it happened quite quickly. This law was proposed on March 23rd of 2016 in the morning, and it was signed in the afternoon. 82 of the state House members voted for it, 26 against and 11 didn't vote. And then it went to the Senate in North Carolina, where 32 people voted for it, all of the Republicans voted for it, and 11 of the Democrats ended up walking out. 6 didn't vote at all. But in a sense, it was unanimous in the North Carolina Senate. Immediately, they whipped that off to the governor's mansion, and bada boom, bada bing, Pat McCrory signed that bill on the same day, and it became state law. So that's the law in North Carolina. What are the effects? So weeks after that law was passed, companies began coming out against this legislation, threatening North Carolina with boycott. Companies like Facebook and Google, IBM, American Airlines, Twitter, Marriott, PayPal, Apple, Lowe's threatened to pull out jobs. And in fact, some of them did. PayPal, Deutsche Bank, they actually pulled jobs out. They've estimated almost 2,000 jobs have been lost because of this law, and about $40 to $70 million in revenue. The NBA has threatened to pull out the All-Star game out of North Carolina, and numerous bands and artists, Bruce Springsteen, Pearl Jam, Demi Lovato, even Ringo. Yeah, poor Ringo. They pulled their shows out of North Carolina. Now, there's travel bans, government-sponsored funding of trips to North Carolina. Massachusetts, Vermont, Washington, New York have said, we're not going to travel to your state. So there's a lot of pressure on the legislatures from the business community to move the ball on this. Now, the governor has done something. He issued Executive Order 93, which basically lays down the idea that private companies can still do what they want. Target, for instance, has made an announcement that their bathrooms may be used by transgender individuals to the gender that they identify with. He also stated that he wants to now oppose the part of the law that prohibits individuals from suing in state court, and he has also issued an order to all state agencies that they need to render services equally to everybody. But there is tremendous pressure on the governor and on the legislators to do something to reverse this. And of course, those that support this are standing firm, boycotting Target now, standing behind the GOP in North Carolina, stating that this is just a common sense thing. So I want to know what you think. Transgendered individuals, are they a protected class of people, or is this just common sense? I would recommend that you go down in the description below. We have numerous videos about these topics, but I'm going to stop there because I really want to throw the ball in your court, see where you go for it. Maybe you'll shoot and score. All right, guys, giddy up for the learning. If you haven't checked out Hip Hughes History, you should go do that and subscribe and make everybody happy, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I always say, where attention goes, energy flows, and we'll see you guys next time that you press my buttons.